You arrive like dust caught in cathedral lights, slowly drifting, weightless, without decision. You didn't walk in. You were remembered into this place. The hush between breaths, the ache between lifetimes, that gentle hollow inside you when a prayer is said too late. There is no door behind you. There is no gate ahead. Just air that tastes like old smoke and stone that's been wept on for centuries. The silence here is not empty. It's listening, as if the walls still echo the last thought of every soul who passed through. You are not being judged. You are being remembered. And somewhere between ash and flame, you are learning to remember yourself too. Maybe you felt this place long before tonight. In the pause after loss, in the stillness after regret, in the quiet gaze of a candle that knows more than it tells. Perhaps you've woken once with a heavy heart, not because of what was done, but because of what was almost done. What you meant to say, what you almost became. That's purgatory. Not a place, but a patience. A waiting wrapped in mercy. Tonight, we walk its corridors together, not through punishment, but through soft illumination. You'll see memory peeled back like old wallpaper. You'll hear voices that sound like yours, but gentler. We are not here to fear fire. We are here to touch the warmth of what remains when the world forgets you. But heaven hasn't yet remembered, so now, let go of your name. Loosen your shoulders like wet cloth hung to dry. Let your spine float. Your eyelids fall. You're not here to try, only to drift. Breathe in, slowly, like a monk kneeling before nothing. And now breathe out, as if your breath carries all the noise you no longer need. If something in this story feels familiar, it may be because it was always yours. If something lingers long after sleep, feel free to leave a trace below. You never know who else has waited here, in the same silence. Let's begin. You are not in heaven. You are not in hell. You are standing in the middle of a sacred pause where the soul waits, not to be forgiven, but to remember how to forgive itself. You do not walk into this place. You remember it, not with your mind, but with something older, a whisper inside your bones, a scent that lingers beneath the skin of memory. It isn't a room, really. It isn't a tunnel, or a dream, or a punishment. It's a pause, a holding of breath so long, it becomes its own world. This is purgatory, not as flame, but as ash. Not as judgment, but as waiting. Not as agony, but as gentle heaviness. Pressed down like mist over a forgotten chapel. There is no one to greet you here. And yet, you are not alone. The light in this place is neither day nor night. It hums like the moment before dawn, when the sky forgets its color and everything feels like a memory of something sacred. The air is thick with silence, and something sweeter like myrrh, or old incense, or the scent of a closed hymnal once kissed. You try to move your feet, but you're not sure they're touching the ground. Are you floating? Are you being held? No one answers. And somehow, that is the answer. To describe purgatory is to try and describe a sigh, not a scream, not a prayer. A sigh long, low, and echoing with all the words never said. Every soul that waits here brings with it a breath it could not release. That is what you feel in the walls, in the air, in the weight that isn't heavy, but total. Your thoughts begin to loosen. They fray gently, like threads pulled from a robe too ancient to mend. You no longer worry about time, because time here is not linear. It's circular, folded, pressed, like a wax seal on the edge of reality. Moments bleed into each other. Memory becomes prophecy. Guilt becomes poetry. And still, you wait. There are others. You sense them not with sight, but through vibration. Souls move here not in footsteps, but in pulses. Gentle waves of presence, like echoes walking through water. They do not speak. But oh, how loudly they remember. Someone passes by you, or through you, or around you. They carry something not in their hands, but in their aura. A melody. A soft refrain you feel in your ribs. A hymn from a language you once knew before you were born. You wonder if you're here for your sins. But the space doesn't accuse you. It cradles you. Like a confession never spoken aloud, one that grows into moss and wraps itself around your spine until it becomes part of you. In the center of the space stands an altar, low and plain. Upon it 2 candles. One burns, one waits, and between them a brass bowl filled with ash. Not gray, not cold. The ash glows faintly, as though each flake contains a memory mid-unfolding. You lean closer, and something inside you shudders not in fear, but in awe. You see fragments not of fire, but of faces. A hand you almost reached for in life. A word you almost said. A kindness you nearly offered. And a wound you almost healed. All of them live here, suspended in the ash. Not forgotten. Not gone. Just waiting. Purgatory is not a room. It is a ritual. Every moment here is a slow undoing. Not tearing. Not destroying. But softening. Like parchment in water. Like guilt slowly being sung back into silence. You kneel not out of duty, but instinct. Your knees don't touch stone. They touch memory. They touch the breath of every soul who has waited like this before you. Behind you, a wall you didn't notice begins to glow. On it, 1,000 names are carved not in letters, but in light. You recognize one, not because you've seen it, but because it lives in your chest like a slow bell. It is your name, but not the name people called you. The name you gave yourself before you were born. And suddenly, a thought rises wordless, but warm. You are not being punished. You are being understood. Purgatory is not a prison. It is a promise. A sacred promise that no soul is discarded, not even one made of contradiction and trembling. You are being asked, quietly, to remember every version of yourself and to forgive each one gently. The candle still burns. The ash still glows. You look to the unlit candle and feel not fear but longing. One day, it will burn for you, but not yet. You still have sighs to exhale. Still have dreams to drift through. Still have your own name to relearn, not the loud one, but the true one. You do not leave the space. It leaves you slowly, like a tide, receding back into whatever silence made it. And just before you fall into stillness, you hear something, not a voice, not a word, but a sound, like your own heart, exhaling for the first time in eternity. You stay kneeling for what might be minutes or centuries. Here, time loses its precision. It breathes with you instead. Every second lingers like incense, and then vanishes, never rushing, never counting, only offering itself, like a slow forgiveness. The silence in this place begins to bloom. Not the absence of sound, but the presence of listening. The walls don't echo like in the world you came from. Instead, they absorb. They absorb thought, memory, desire, and in return, They offer something softer whispers. You begin to hear them, not in your ears, but in your chest, in that soft, trembling place behind your lungs. They rise not as voices but as gentle pulses, like language that forgot how to form words. There are souls here. You can't see them, but they surround you like mist. And they are whispering. But no one cries here. There is no wailing, no gnashing, no flames licking at regret, just whispers. And that alone tells you this place is different than you feared. These are not souls in torment. These are souls in recognition. They are whispering to themselves. One voice sounds like a lullaby hummed in an ancient dialect, one you never learned, but always understood. Another whisper curls around a single phrase, if only. And another still a voice so delicate it feels like snowfall simply repeats a name. Over and over. A name long lost. Maybe the name of a child. Maybe the name of the self they never let live. You realize something. The souls here are not waiting to be punished. They are waiting to be ready, ready to forgive themselves, ready to release what was never theirs, ready to walk through the final veil without clutching a single unfinished sentence. No one forces them. No clock ticks. No angel counts. They wait because some part of them still longs to understand. And you begin to remember too. Not events, not facts, but textures. The rough cloth of your mother's kitchen towel. The way your dog sighed in its sleep. The ache in your fingers after writing a letter you never sent. Here, these things become scripture. You begin walking, though you don't recall standing. Your steps are weightless, and the air hums with memory. You pass a wall carved entirely of names, but not like the wall from before. These names shimmer, fade, reappear like they're testing themselves in your eyes, asking softly, "Do you still carry me?" Somewhere nearby, you feel the warmth of another presence, not human, not quite divine. It is vast not in size, but in patience. It's an angel, but not the kind from paintings. No wings, no robes, just stillness. And kindness so profound it feels like gravity. It does not speak. It does not touch. It simply exists near you. And you are known. You do not feel judged. You feel understood. Entirely. Your faults do not shrink here, but neither do your sorrows. They are simply seen. And the more they are seen, the more they begin to soften. The angel does not tally your sins. It sits beside them, as if to say, "Yes, that too. That was part of you. And it was human." You pass a fountain made of stone. No water runs through it. Instead, light flows. Liquid light gold, then silver, then pale violet. Souls pause here. They place their hands into it. And when they remove them, you notice their fingers are dripping with memory. They carry that light into the next room, a place you cannot see. Not yet. Not until you're ready. You touch the fountain. It is warm like skin left in sun. And when your hand enters the current, a vision flashes. A hallway. You are 10 years old. You are saying something cruel. You are pretending not to care. And then the image dissolves. You did not remember that. But now you do. And strangely, you don't flinch. You don't punish yourself. You simply say, "Yes, that happened." And the light accepts it. This is Purgatory, a place not where you suffer your sins, but where you witness them. And in that witnessing, you are made whole again. You pass a bench made of white wood, cracked, yet dignified. On it sits a soul whose face is a blur of shifting light. You sit beside them, You do not speak. You do not need to. Your silence folds together like fingers in prayer. The soul leans toward you and whispers one phrase I waited too long to love, and then they dissolve. Not in pain, but in release. Like a cloud bowing out of sunlight, you remain seated, you close your eyes, and you realize they were never open. Not really. And from within you, a question rises. Not with urgency, not even with language. Just a quiet bloom. What part of you is still waiting to be forgiven? The candle in the chapel still burns. The ash still glows. And above you, the souls continue whispering. But still, no one cries. Because here, sorrow is not a punishment. It is a balm. It is a salve applied slowly, tenderly, until it no longer stings. And you are beginning to heal without even knowing how. The bench is behind you now. Though you never stood, you move not because you choose to, but because something is unfolding like parchment in warm wind. You are being guided, not by force, not by voice, by gravity, but not the kind that pulls you downward. This one pulls you inward. You step through a corridor, or what feels like one. It isn't stone. It isn't light. It's made of memory. It bends around you like cathedral glass bent into air. And you arrive slowly, reverently at a door that does not open. It sighs. The sigh is enough. And so you enter. The room is vast, but not empty. It is lined with shelves. High, tall, endless shelves. But they do not hold books. They hold pages. Loose ones, folded ones, burnt ones, blank ones. Thousands, millions, billions. Each one hanging in the air like a breath held too long. This is the library of regret. And you are its guest. Or perhaps one of its authors. The first thing you notice is the hush. It is not silence, but reverence. The way one speaks in a holy place, even if alone. You do not want to speak here. Not because you're afraid, but because everything here is already speaking. Not in noise, in weight. You reach toward a page. It flutters toward your fingers like it knows. Like it has waited. Its edges are singed, but the center remains. You read nothing, but you feel something. A moment. You standing in a hallway, about to turn back and say I'm sorry, but you didn't. That moment was never erased. It was folded and shelved here, where all unfinished things come to rest. You walk between the rows. The pages hum softly, like monks exhaling. Some are tied with red string. Others are torn at the corner. A few glow faintly, pulsing like embers in ash. Every regret you've ever had is here. But more strangely so are the regrets of those you never met. The man who wished he had kissed his wife goodbye. The girl who never shared the song she wrote. The grandmother who buried her faith under years of silence. All of them here. Filed not by name, but by ache. You find a shelf made of bone-colored wood, smooth with age. A page is pinned beneath glass. You approach. Heart slow. It's yours. You know it instantly, not because it's labeled, but because it feels like that tightness in your throat when you lie to protect someone you love. You lean in, and you see, on the page, a single phrase. I wish I had asked her why she wept alone. You don't remember who she was, but your eyes do. Your bones do. And your chest responds not with pain, but with opening. Here, you don't relive your regret. You complete it. That's what this place is. Not a punishment. Not a museum. A sacred workspace. Souls come here to gently thread together the unfinished lines of their lives. Not to erase them, but to understand them, to weave them back into the self, to offer peace not through forgetting, but through comprehension. A book floats by, not a heavy one, small. It lands near your feet. You pick it up. It opens to a prayer written in the shaky handwriting of someone who had long since given up on believing it would be heard. It begins with "Dear God," and ends with nothing, just blank space. A prayer unfinished. A reaching that stopped mid-thought. And yet, it is here. It was heard. This is the second name of the library, the Chamber of Unfinished Prayers. Because even when words were never spoken, the intention survived. The breath still carried it. And that breath, like all breath, was sacred. You run your fingers along the spines of books that don't have spines. You hear the soft turning of pages, though no hands move. You see a scroll unravel mid-air and write itself in a language not spoken since the 5th century. And still, the room never ends. Each shelf contains another version of a soul not judged, but remembered. And then you notice something stranger. Not all regrets are yours. Some are ancestral. Some belong to lives before this one. Some were passed down like invisible heirlooms, things left unfinished across generations. A mother who never hugged her daughter. A soldier who never sang again after war. A child who forgot how to imagine. They live in your marrow. And so they live here too. You walk to the center of the room. A single candle burns. It flickers. Not from wind, but from truth. The kind of truth that shifts your vision. The kind you can only accept in whispers. You sit beside it. The flame does not cast shadow. It casts understanding. You whisper a name you don't know whose and feel a warmth wrap around your ribs like arms you've missed since before birth. A voice your own asks, "What do you still carry that was never yours?" You don't answer. You simply close your eyes. And a single page, one blank, one soft folds into your lap. It doesn't accuse. It offers. You lift it, place it against your chest, and feel your pulse write something into it without ink, something you're not ready to say aloud, but something that's finally been said. And that is enough. The library begins to dim, not because it's closing, because it's trusting you to return. You are not finished. No soul here is. That's the beauty of it. Unfinished does not mean unworthy. It means ongoing. You walk toward the same sigh you entered through, and it opens once more. Behind you, a final whisper from the shelves. Thank you for remembering us. You step through. The air is warmer, the ash softer. The flame ahead burns a little brighter. You have left nothing behind. You have brought everything forward. You emerge gently from the library, but not unchanged. You carry no books, no scrolls, only a warmth pressed behind your sternum as if something inside you was acknowledged at last. Not resolved, perhaps, but recognized. You step into a corridor shaped like a hush. There are no doors here, but as you move, the world shifts around you not with architecture, but with intention. You are drawn toward light, but not divine, not radiant. It flickers, soft, earthbound, frail, and impossibly human. You enter a room made not of stone, but of shadow. The floor is dark velvet. The walls are breathing slowly, like lungs. In every corner, a small candle flickers, and each one, you realize, does not come from here. These flames do not belong to Purgatory. They belong to Earth, to the living. Each candle is a prayer, a whispered name in a quiet bedroom, a mass offered by a grieving daughter, a moment at the kitchen table where someone pauses mid-sentence because a memory just brushed their shoulder. You look up. Above each flame, There is a shimmer, a thread, stretching upward, through the ceiling, into the unknown. Each thread leads somewhere. Each one is tethered to a living heart. You approach the nearest candle. It sputters gently. Its wax pool trembles as if touched by thought. And beside it sits a soul cross-legged, unmoving. Their eyes are closed, but their face glows. You kneel near them. You don't need to ask. You already feel the truth they are being held by someone still alive, not with arms, but with memory. That's what this room is, a sanctuary for the remembered. You rise and begin to wander. There are hundreds of candles, some tall, some tiny, some nearly out, some blazing steadily. Each flame is a different kind of love. The flame of a spouse who still sets two places at the table. The flame of a child who talks to the night sky. The flame of a monk who chants every morning for those he'll never meet. These are not acts of theology. They are acts of longing. You pass a table, and on it sits a bowl of coins. They shimmer faintly, as though freshly minted in a realm where currency is made of kindness. You're reminded of something you once read, that in Catholic tradition, the prayers of the living could ease the waiting of the dead. You never quite understood that, until now, because here in this space, every thought of you becomes light. Not judgment, not relief, but a flickering hope enough to hold on to, enough to soften the edges of the waiting. You look again at the soul beside the nearest candle. Their hands are open, palms turned skyward, and you realize this is what prayer looks like from the other side. Not magic, not transaction, just light, drifting in. Not all candles burn evenly. You find one that's barely lit a dull orange ember, and beside it, a soul curls tightly, as if trying to stay warm. You feel the chill in the space, and for a moment, you wonder, is no one thinking of them? And then a flicker. The ember flares softly, not into flame, but into presence. Somewhere, perhaps, a grandchild just whispered their name aloud before sleep. Or maybe a photograph was turned face up after years in a drawer. Whatever it was, it reached here, and you watch as the curled soul unfolds, just slightly. Their face turns, and their lips part in something like gratitude. You want to touch the candle, to keep it alive, but you cannot. It must come from there, from the world of breath, and voices, and waking dreams. You stand still. The room continues glowing, and then you hear a sound. Soft at first, almost imagined. A rustle, a whisper. No, a song. It comes not from the candles, but from the souls they touch. Not in unison, but like a forest of gentle humming, each flame becoming a note, each memory a melody. The room becomes a music woven of longing, not desperate, not mournful, sacred. You close your eyes, and you begin to wonder, who has lit candles for you? Have you been remembered today? Has someone spoken your name into their tea, or thought of you when the church bells rang? You don't know. You may never know. But somehow, you feel it, like warmth just behind your shoulder. Perhaps someone somewhere looked at the sky and thought of you without knowing why, and maybe that was enough to light your way through this soft darkness. In the far end of the room stands an alcove. It holds no candles, only mirrors, dozens of them, each one shaped differently, round, broken, gold-framed, or made of nothing but shadow. You approach, and in the glass, you don't see your reflection. You see moments, the time someone forgave you without telling you, The time someone prayed for you, even when they didn't believe. The time a stranger wept, unknowingly, for the pain you hid. These too are light, not the kind that burns, but the kind that lifts. You breathe in, and in that moment, you make a promise. If you return to the world of the living, you will light candles for others. You will speak their names. You will remember the forgotten. You will pray for the almost loved, because now you know there are rooms in this in-between, lit only by the kindness of the living. And for some souls, that is the only light they ever see. You leave the room of candles with a gentler weight than before, not heavier, but deeper, like breath drawn from a memory, held softly in the chest. Behind you, the light of others still flickers. Ahead, the path glows with something else, not fire, not sunlight, but presence. You feel it before you see it, like a warmth behind glass, like the feeling of someone watching you, not to judge, but to keep, like being wrapped in silence that belongs to someone else. You step into a hall that curves like a question mark. The ceiling arches above, impossibly high, carved not from stone, but from longing. Along the sides, great windows stretch not outward, but inward. Each pane reflects not your face, but your soul in fragments. Here, everything slows, even your thoughts. And still, the presence walks beside you. It does not make footsteps. It doesn't breathe. And yet it breathes with you in rhythm. In shadow, you turn a corner, and finally, you see it. Or rather, you almost do. An outline, a shimmer, a silhouette made of silence. It is standing still, waiting. It has no wings, and yet the air around it bends like wind does when something holy passes through. Its shape flickers at the edges, too much to look at directly, too gentle to turn away from. The angel, the one assigned to you but not allowed to touch. It has been with you longer than you remember. It remembers what you forgot. It remembers who you were before birth. It remembers the sound you made before you knew language. But it cannot speak. Not yet. It only watches and prays. Yes, angels pray too. Not for themselves. For you. You step closer. You feel the temperature shift. Not in heat. Not in cold. In vibration. The skin on your forearms sings like strings just plucked. You wonder what this being knows, what it's seen. You wonder if it watched the moment you almost changed the choice, you almost made the sentence you almost said that would have cracked your world open. And the angel knows what you're thinking. It does not nod. It does not glow. But somehow, it acknowledges. You want to ask it something, anything. How long have you been waiting? What are you waiting for? What did I get wrong? But the questions dissolve in your mouth, because you already know the angel is waiting for your permission, not to guide, not to judge, to witness your readiness. It cannot pull you forward. It can only stand beside the path, holding the echo of a hand it cannot offer. Because in this place in purgatory, no being may interfere with the soul's unfolding. Redemption cannot be forced, not even by heaven. You sit on the floor. The angel remains standing between you. The air thickens not with tension, but with potential. And then something happens. A single feather falls, not from above, not from wings, from memory. It floats down like a snowflake, landing gently beside you, and you feel it. This was the moment. The one that turned everything. You were 17. You told a lie, a small one, but it grew roots. It shaped how you saw yourself. You never forgave it. The angel watched, not with shame, with sadness, not for what you did, but for how long you carried it. You pick up the feather. It dissolves into light in your hand. and the silence between you both softens. The angel is still forbidden to reach, but you begin to understand you can reach instead, not with your hands, with your willingness. And so, you offer it, a small breath, a silent yes, a surrender that says, I am ready to see myself more kindly. The angel doesn't move, but the space between you glows. That is the first step. You walk again. The angel follows, but no longer distant, no longer cloaked in untouchable light. Now, it walks beside you, like a shadow you're finally willing to accept. Not because it fixes anything, but because it reminds you you were never truly alone. You enter another corridor, a threshold, not of stone, but of music. Somewhere, a harp plays no strings, no player, just notes plucked from the spaces between stars. You turn back just once. The angel is still there, and in that moment, you realize they cannot guide you. But they never leave, even when you cannot see them, even when you deny them, even when you believe yourself unworthy. They stay, outside the veil, inside the silence, always near, but never touching, until you call them by name. And even then they whisper it back, slowly, lovingly, as if they've been waiting your whole life, just to hear you say it. You walk forward now slower, but clearer. The angel no longer hovers unseen. It stays behind for now, not out of distance, but out of reverence. This part of the journey, you must take alone. Ahead, a chamber appears not with walls or ceilings, but with scent. The air changes first. You smell cedar, old wax, burnt paper, sweet and faintly bitter like the last breath of a candle just extinguished. You're not sure if the room builds itself around you, or if you've simply wandered into something that's always existed. There are no torches, no glowing stones. The light here comes from below, from shallow pits in the floor, each one holding burning parchment. Confessions. You realize it the moment your foot hovers above the threshold. This is not a place of accusation. It's a sanctuary of releasing. You step in, and the world hushes. Even your thoughts slow, folding inward like petals at dusk. This is the room where the soul learns to speak again. Not to others, not to judges, but to itself. The first thing you notice is how warm it feels. Not hot warm like memory. Like holding a letter you wrote but never sent. You see them everywhere, thin scrolls, folded papers, torn scraps drifting like butterflies, then settling into small flames that do not consume them, but carry them upward in smoke. And the smoke, it doesn't vanish. It curls through the air, shaping itself into vague symbols, half faces, hands reaching but not touching, lips forming syllables that never make sound. These are the confessions of souls. Not catalogued, not filed, just offered. Some are unfinished, some are scratched out, but all of them are honest. And here, honesty doesn't hurt. It softens. You walk past a pit of glowing parchment. You feel something in your stomach tighten, not in fear, but in recognition. Without thinking, you reach down. A scrap of smoke brushes your fingers. Instantly, your mind is filled with a moment sharp, vivid. You're 15. You are holding your breath behind a closed door. You've just broken something. Not an object. A trust. And instead of speaking, you bury it. That memory, still folded somewhere deep inside, rises now. Not to accuse, but to breathe. You exhale, and the smoke accepts it. You understand suddenly that the soul collects these folded truths over lifetimes. Not to shame you, but to one day be released. Here, this place is not purgatory's punishment. It is its gift. The opportunity to let your confessions rise without needing to be heard by anyone but yourself. And the flame. You step to a basin made of dark stone. Floating above it, a single page, blank. But you know what to do. You don't write with ink. You write with breath. You hold the page near your chest, close your eyes, and say not aloud, but within I was afraid to be seen. So I hid behind cruelty. The paper warms. It folds gently in your hands, then lifts slowly and glides toward one of the flames. It catches fire without burning, and its smoke curls upward, fragrant and weightless. You feel lighter, not because you are forgiven, but because you have finally told the truth. Around you, other souls do the same. They come in silence. They offer. They weep not with sound, but with peace. You walk deeper into the space and find a column of clear quartz rising from the floor. Inside it, a scroll that pulses with golden light. It is untouched, pristine. You move closer, and a strange thought arrives. Some confessions are not about wrongdoing. Some are about pain never named, grief never spoken, joy never allowed. You place your hand on the quartz, and you see a vision, a young version of yourself, laughing, but shrinking the sound. You were told your voice was too much, so you folded your joy. That, too, becomes smoke. You whisper, I'm sorry I silenced myself to be loved. The pillar hums not with power, but with recognition. You understand now purgatory does not ask for penance and blood. It asks for honesty, not for judgment, but so that the soul can stop carrying what was never meant to be permanent. You sit cross-legged near a low fire. A bowl of blank scrolls waits beside you. You take one. This time, you offer something you didn't expect. A kindness you gave once, long ago, that you never acknowledged. You write it in breath. You let it rise. Not in pride, but in closure. Even goodness can become heavy if we hide it. Around you, the smoke thickens not into choking, but into atmosphere. This room is filled with truths, and that makes it sacred. You rise. Your final scroll hovers in your palm, warm, steady. Before you release it, you whisper, I forgive the version of me that didn't know better. And for a moment, the room brightens, not with light, with clarity. The fire accepts the scroll, and for the first time in this space, you smile. A real smile, not in joy, but in relief. Because here, you've said what needed to be said, even if no one heard it, even if it was only smoke. And in the language of the in-between, smoke is enough. You walk toward the exit, barefoot on warm stone. The scent of cedar still clings to your skin. You feel no need to turn back. The flame will remember, and so will you. You step beyond the stone hallway, past the silence thickened by smoke and memory, and find yourself standing before a strange iron gate, barely held upright by curling vines. It hums softly, like a lullaby sung in a language you've never heard, yet somehow remember. It opens without sound, as if it, too, has grown tired of holding its own weight. Beyond it lies a garden unlike any you've seen. No sky above, no sun, no stars. Just a low, glowing breath that seems to radiate from nowhere and everywhere, a gentle amber hue that never fades or shifts. There is no soil, and yet everything grows. Vines climb marble pillars that lead nowhere. Trees arch in quiet, frozen motion, as if caught mid-reach. Lilies tremble softly in still air, but never open. The petals seem made of dust and light, suspended between becoming and disappearing. It is beautiful, yes, but unsettling in its stillness. This is a place of pause, a garden of not yet, where longing is rooted deeper than reason, and time itself folds in on silence. You step carefully along a winding path of gray stones. They feel warm beneath your feet, as if they have stored the memories of those who once walked here. Each footstep presses into soft moss, but the moss does not yield. It holds you up gently, like a hand cupped around a fragile thought. The plants do not sway in wind. There is no wind, but you hear breathing, not your own. As you walk further in, you see them. Not people, not entirely. Shapes, forms wrapped in cloaks of light and memory. Some are kneeling beside saplings that seem to grow upward and inward at once. Others water roots with bowls made of bone and gold, filled with shimmering liquid that looks like distilled longing tears. Perhaps from prayers left unfinished. They are not trapped. They are tending. This garden is purgatory not of fire, but of gentle waiting. A place between, where souls come not to be punished, but to remember how to care. Each act of touch, of tending, of stillness, is a kind of healing. One spirit traces a circle into the bark of a tree. You look closely, it's not a drawing. It's a memory. You feel it press into your chest, a child running through grass. A name being called. A door left open. Another figure sits quietly beside a flowering bush that never quite blooms, holding a petal that never falls. They are not crying. No one here cries. Instead, the garden breathes them through. You move toward a tree whose roots spiral around a pool of glowing water. Reflections float across its surface, not of what is here, but of what was left behind. Faces, hands, a dog sleeping in a patch of sunlight, an apology that was never said aloud. You kneel beside the pool and feel your own face flicker in the reflection, not as you are, but as you were in a moment you had forgotten. And you wonder, is this what becomes of unresolved tenderness? A bench carved from pearl-colored stone waits beneath a canopy of vines. You sit. The air around you tastes like lavender and ash. The silence here is not empty. It's full of things that never found the right time to be said. Someone sits beside you. Or maybe something. They don't speak, but their presence feels like an arm around your back. Like the quiet comfort of someone who knows your ache before you name it. You do not look at them, but you feel them smile. This is not a place of answers. It is a place of remembering, of waiting without pain, of tending without end. A place where time is not lost, only softened, where nothing is urgent, and everything is sacred in its pause. The garden with no season asks for nothing. It simply exists, and in doing so, teaches you how to do the same. You rise slowly, knees brushing against the moss. Ahead, a narrow path disappears into an arch of silver-leafed trees. You look back one last time, at the blooms that almost opened, and you feel something in you shift. Not sorrow, not peace, but permission to move forward without understanding, to carry the fragrance of the garden in your breath, long after you leave it. And so, without a sound, you walk on. You walk through a corridor so quiet, it seems to fold time inward. There are no doors, only soft arches of gold-tinged mist that rise and dissolve with your breath. This is not a place that records events. It records the tone of your voice when you were most honest. It remembers how your laughter trembled the air during moments when you forgot who was watching. Somewhere, someone is whispering your name not aloud, but backward, in light. You do not understand it at first. The sound is less of a word and more of a pull. It's like hearing your name as it might be sung underwater, or dreamt by someone who has never met you but still loves you. And it isn't just your name. It is the memory of your name before anyone taught it to you. The original music of your being. You place your hand against the mist wall, and it ripples gently like a pond that remembers being the sky. A flicker of warmth hums beneath your palm. This space is alive with echo. not of words, but of emotional sound, the way a goodbye tastes, the way joy sings in your chest when you forget you are supposed to suffer. A candle lights itself in the corner, though you did not see a match. It lights not from fire, but from remembrance. In this chamber, flame is born from memory. The brighter the memory burns, the taller the flame rises, and your presence has lit a series of them, each pulsing gently in rhythm with your slow exhale. You try to speak, but your voice, too, dissolves, not into silence, but into light. Each word you attempt to say glows from your throat and floats outward like golden mist, carrying the scent of something forgotten. The rain in your childhood backyard, your mother's sleeve brushing your cheek, the exact temperature of spring when you first learned to forgive. Here, even breath becomes language, and light responds in kind. The space shifts again, no longer a corridor, but a chamber of hanging bells. Hundreds of them, some no larger than a fingertip, others as wide as moons. They do not ring, not with metal. They ring with you. Each bell plays a moment you forgot you were loved. You do not hear them with your ears. You feel them with the soles of your feet, the back of your neck, the space behind your eyes. And in each vibration, you remember not just what happened, but who you were becoming. Even in the absence of clarity, you once believed your name was fixed, that it had edges. But here in this luminous vault, you realize your name has always been evolving. The pronunciation shifts depending on who speaks it, how they loved you, how they left you. In this place, names are not nouns. They are verbs. Your name is what you keep doing in the hearts of others. An angel passes, not with wings, but with light cascading behind her like falling silk. She says nothing. She doesn't need to. Her entire presence is an utterance of your true name. Not the one given to you, but the one you've been becoming all your life. And you are humbled by it. Humbled by how beautiful your own name sounds when spoken without pain. A scholar once wrote in a forgotten Sufi manuscript that when a soul dies, it is not judged by its deeds alone, but by how beautifully it carried its name through the fire. That is to say, not just what you did, but how tenderly you kept your essence intact while the world tried to unmake you. And in this chamber, you are hearing the result. There's a soft wind now, but there are no windows. The wind smells like lavender and burnt cedar, and something else, perhaps the inside of a wooden church, or a pillowcase you held when you were afraid of thunder. That wind is memory too. Not just yours, but those who loved you from afar. Those who saw you once and prayed something good would happen for you, and their memory is part of your name. You move deeper still. Now the floor is a mirror, not of reflection, but of sound. You step, and you hear not a footfall, but the exact tone of voice you used the last time you said, "I forgive you," even when you didn't want to. Each step echoes a piece of your emotional biography. You look up. Above you, written in floating script, are syllables made of light. You recognize none of them, and yet you know them all. This is your name spoken in the language of God. Not any religion's God, but the infinite consciousness that dreamed you into being. A name so precise, it includes the sound of your last tear, the heat of your first kiss, and the precise molecular joy of your name. Backward is not a reversal. It is the sound of being welcomed home. At the edge of the chamber, you find a single thread of gold stretching out into the void. You touch it. It plays a single note, a harmonic vibration that makes you weep without tears. You do not know why. Perhaps it is the note that played when you were born. Or perhaps it is the sound your soul made when it first agreed to carry the burden of your human story. A bell tolls again. This one louder, not harsh, but awake. And suddenly, everything shimmers. The candles blink. The golden script floats downward, raining letters that dissolve into your skin. You do not flinch. You are not afraid. You have been here before long ago. In a dream you dismissed because it felt too beautiful to be real. But this chamber of luminous names was real then, and is real now. It is not a memory. It is your signature on the universe, the proof that you were never forgotten, only temporarily misplaced. And as the final bell hums, you realize you've never needed to be remembered. You've always been light, speaking yourself into the dark. You find yourself standing barefoot on a tiled floor so smooth it reflects light like still water. Though there is no visible source of illumination, the air here carries a faint metallic scent, like old coins warmed by sunlight. The walls are not made of stone or brick, but of some velvety material that muffles all echoes. This is the room of keys, a quiet chamber in the architecture of Purgatory, where readiness is stored like candle wicks that wait for a flame. There are thousands of them, keys of all shapes, metals, and designs. Some are antique, heavy with rust and ritual. Others gleam like starlight captured in iron. One has your name etched on it, not the name you use now, but the name you once whispered to yourself when you were 7 and afraid of thunderstorms. Another bears the scent of your grandmother's scarf. Another glows faintly whenever you remember your first love. You're not sure if these keys open anything, but they are yours. Each one represents a moment when you almost made a choice. You pick one up. It's warm. It smells like lilac and ink. You hold it in your palm and feel the memory return, a time when you could have spoken the truth, but swallowed it instead to protect someone else's illusion. That choice was never punished, but it was never completed either. It became a locked room in the architecture of your soul. And now here you are, surrounded by the keys, but not the doors. There are no guards here. No angels, no demons. Just a desk, old, wooden, and soft at the corners. Upon it sits a blank ledger and a featherless quill, as though inviting you to list the keys you remember, or the ones you've forgotten. On the far wall, there is an ornate cabinet filled with hourglasses. Most have stopped midway, their sand frozen in motion, as though time itself waited to see if you'd turn the glass again. A soft wind stirs through the room, though no windows or doors exist. You realize it isn't wind at all. It's breath. The breath of people alive who remember you, praying or thinking your name. Their longing for your peace sustains the air here. That's the irony of this place you are waiting. But you are also being waited for, somewhere deep within the folds of Catholic mysticism. Purgatory was never hellfire, never damnation. It was always possibility. Saint Catherine of Genoa once described it not as punishment, but as purification. A longing for God so fierce it burned away all that was not love. And here, in this room, you understand. These keys are not obstacles. They are invitations. But the doors must be built by you, not found. You sit down at the desk. The blank ledger is heavier than it looks. As you open it, the pages hum softly. Not a melody, exactly, but a vibration, as if each page remembers the hand of someone who once wrote here. You think of all your unfinished letters, confessions you never spoke, farewells you never gave. For a moment, you wonder what kind of architecture those would create if regret had shape. There is one key that keeps calling to you. It's small, almost toy-like, Its head is shaped like a bird. The moment you hold it, a memory floods in a song you used to sing to yourself in the bathtub when no one was home. That melody still lives here, stored in metal and warmth. You realize something astonishing. The key is not meant to open something out there. It is meant to unlock that melody again in your voice. Perhaps Purgatory is not about escaping a prison, but about learning to sing again with the voice that once knew no shame. You look up. The room remains quiet. The keys remain still. But the feeling inside you shifts slightly, like the weight of a decision settling. You are not trapped. You are preparing. This is the hallway before the dream begins. The silence before the bell. There is no one to rush you. The divine has all the time in the world. And so, now, do you. The scholar Hans Urs von Balthasar once called Purgatory a burning within, a place where the soul desires God with such intensity that the waiting itself becomes transformative. You think of that now. Perhaps the heat in this room doesn't come from a fire, but from the sheer yearning locked inside these keys, each one a small relic of who you wanted to become. Outside this room, if such a place exists, the living light candles for you. They do it out of tradition, maybe out of love, maybe out of fear. But their flames send warmth into this strange, key-filled chamber. And you feel it now, not heat exactly, but readiness. You are not locked in. You are not lost. You are simply standing at the center of a sacred inventory, and in this dream between fires, where nothing begins but nothing is over. You are free to choose. You are curled beneath a weightless blanket, made not of cloth, but of memories softened by time. Around you, the air breathes with the hush of a cathedral too sacred for footsteps. Purgatory is not fire and brimstone here. It is the quiet cradle of souls still learning how to be light. Imagine you are a candle, only half melted, not quite spent, but not fully formed. In this place, the wick still burns, but gently, quietly, like a secret whispered from heaven's edge. No one rushes you. No one condemns. The only clock here is the rhythm of your own becoming. You do not feel lost. You feel paused. There is no monster hiding under the bed here. Only soft questions that wait patiently at the edge of your sleep. They do not prod. They do not shout. They lie beside you like the childhood stuffed animal you used to tell your secrets to the ones you thought no one heard. But something did, and it remembered. Purgatory, child, is a lullaby hummed in reverse. You don't hear the words. You only feel the shape of them wrapped around you like mist. It doesn't ask you to confess, only to remember. Not with guilt, but with gentleness. Here, memory is not a weapon. It's a mirror that fogs over just enough to protect you from the sharpest edges of your reflection. You are not being punished. You are being ripened. Not every soul can walk straight into the brightness of heaven. Some hearts arrive carrying too many echoes. Echoes of unspoken words, of almosts, of glances not held long enough, of kindness withheld out of fear. These are not sins. Exactly. They are weights. And here, in this velvet pause, you are allowed to let them fall one by one into the soft moss under your feet. There are teachers here. Though they don't speak, they guide like gravity, subtle, constant, invisible. One walks beside you in every memory you revisit. Another sits inside your silence and makes it glow. A third may braid your forgotten prayers into threads of gold, too thin to see, but strong enough to carry you across the last bridge when you're ready. Do you feel that warm breeze now? That's someone thinking of you from the living world. That's a mother's tear, or a friend's sigh, or a candle flickering in a chapel you've never seen. Love still reaches you here. In fact, it's the only thing that does. Time in purgatory isn't measured in hours. It's measured in softening, in how easily your soul can hum again without trembling, in how gently you can forgive the versions of yourself you left behind. Some souls rest here for moments. Others stay for centuries. But no one is abandoned. No one is forgotten. Not even the ones who forget themselves. And when you are ready, truly ready, you won't be told. There will be no trumpet, no light cracking the sky. Just a door you've passed 1,000 times, suddenly open. And you'll walk through without fear, without question, because your feet will know the way. Child, this is purgatory. Not a place to be feared, but a pillow for the soul. A field where sorrow exhales. A hallway where echoes become lullabies. A garden where tears water the stars. A room in the house of God, lit by the lamps of those who still wait. So sleep gently. You're not late. You're just learning how to glow. Time, as you once knew it, was a straight river forward, predictable, obedient to the sun. But here, in this soft corridor between what was and what might be, time has grown tired of pretending to be linear. It curls now, folds, loops, and sometimes stands completely still. Especially when regret walks in, you notice it first in the silence. A moment arrives, and instead of passing, it lingers. It sits beside you like an old friend who has something unsaid in their throat. You expect it to move along, as time usually does a glance, a blink, a heartbeat, but it doesn't. Not when regret is near. Regret presses its thumb gently on the center of the clock, and the ticking pauses. You're not being punished. You're being shown. Regret isn't a monster. It's a mirror that learned to cry, and when you look into it, time respects your gaze. It waits for you to see what needs seeing the moment you spoke too quickly. The hand you didn't take. The truth you swallowed so you wouldn't tremble. These tiny fractures in the past become immense in this place. Not to shame you, but to remind you you once held power. And you still do. It's not that time here is broken. It's that your heart slows the mechanism so it can feel. Truly feel. Imagine walking through a hallway of your own memories. Each door leads to a different heartbeat. And every time you hesitate, every time your chest tightens with the weight of what if the air thickens, the seconds stretch like dusk. They hold you in that space between what happened and what could have been, between touch and almost touch, between apology and silence. And that is where the hours stretch longest in the nearlies. The mind has a cruel tenderness. It loops what hurts until it softens. That's why a moment of regret from a decade ago can feel more alive than something you experienced yesterday. The regret glows, pulses, asks to be touched again and again, not to harm you, but to transform, because you are not only remembering, you are healing, and healing takes time. And time, here, is merciful. In this realm, the river of time becomes a lake, and you float in the middle of it, no shore in sight, but also no urgency, just a reflection of the sky above, and the slow rippling of your own becoming. Regret is not the anchor. It is the teacher that holds your hand as you learn to swim. And when you finally say the words, the ones you never spoke, even if only in your own soul, the water begins to move again. The moment releases you. The regret, once heavy, dissolves into memory. It doesn't vanish. It just stops pulsing. And the next moment arrives, gentle and unburdened. Do you feel that that's time beginning again? because you dared to feel something all the way through. So when you wonder why this realm seems slower, why the air thickens when you remember a name, or a choice, or a glance, know that it's not punishment. It's grace. The universe is giving you the one thing you were never offered in the moment itself: time. To truly feel. Time. To understand. Time. To let go. In this space, clocks do not tick. They listen. And when you're ready, when the regret has taught you how to walk forward without shame, time will not just resume. It will sing. Now you understand. The past can't be changed, but it can be held softly until it no longer holds you. There is a sound that does not echo because it was never meant to. A sound that carries no rhythm, yet you feel it pulsing faintly behind your ribs. Here, in this silent corridor of not quite heaven and not quite earth, the air bends with a music made for no one else. A choir that sings only to you. They are not angels in robes, nor monks in cathedral arches. Their mouths are closed. Their voices do not rise from throats, but from something deeper, the marrow of memory, the hush of a mother's hum, the syllables you forgot how to speak. The choir is not made of people, not entirely. It is made of everything that has ever held you gently. They sing in a key. Only your soul remembers the vibration of childhood lullabies filtered through time. The cadence of words spoken by a lover whose face has faded. This choir is shaped not by grandeur, but by softness. Not by praise, but by presence. And you do not sit in pews, nor kneel in reverence. You simply stand, barefoot in thought, surrounded by sound that knows the architecture of your heart better than you do. It is like walking into a room lit by the color of your own heartbeat. Each voice in this choir is an emotion that once passed through you: joy on a forgotten afternoon, fear in a long hallway, pride unspoken, shame carefully hidden. But here, in this chamber of spirit, those emotions find pitch. They blend into harmonies you could never write but instantly recognize. You do not cry, but something inside you releases. The tension in your shoulders you didn't realize you carried. The way you've been holding your breath since that long ago goodbye. This music unknots you not with melody, but with memory. You hear, somehow, the laughter of your childhood best friend, the rustle of your grandfather's coat, the soft pop of the spine of a book you loved, a footstep from a hallway that doesn't exist anymore, the chime of your first cell phone message. These are not songs. They are echoes not of the world, but of you. Even the silence between the notes is crafted. You begin to realize that absence itself has been tuned pauses placed exactly where your breath needs to slow. The music knows when you are ready to remember, and when you are not, it waits. You are not meant to sing back. Not yet. This choir does not require your participation. It requires only your stillness, your willingness to listen without grasping, to receive without guilt. It is not a test, nor a judgment. It is a remembrance. There is a note long and low that hums like the underside of sleep. It coils beneath your awareness and rests in the folds of your spine. This note carries everything you once meant to say and never did. Everything you whispered into your pillow. The names you still carry in your chest like lanterns. Flickering, they sing of your first heartbreak and your quietest victory. Of the one person who forgave you when you couldn't forgive yourself. Of the things you built in silence: resilience, patience, quiet hope. As you listen, your body doesn't move, but your soul leans forward, as if trying to remember the words to a song it didn't know it knew. The melody wraps around you like mist around a lantern, never smothering, only outlining what you are becoming. No other soul can hear this song. It is not broadcast. It is not archived. It is not replayed for others to study. This moment is made entirely for you, a composition born of your breath, your ache, your sweetness, your regrets. You begin to wonder who composes it. You glance upward, but there is no conductor, no divine figure with a baton, only a sense of orchestration, as if some great softness beneath all things has been waiting eons for this one quiet performance, not to impress, not to enlighten, but to hold you. And as they sing, you realize something else: this choir does not live here. They came here just for this, just for you. They will leave when you do. But the memory of their voices that will stay, not in your ears, but in the way your silence will feel afterward. More whole. You notice now that some of the harmonies seem to shift subtly when you recall a person, a mother, a teacher, a stranger who was kind on a hard day. When you bring their face to mind, the choir incorporates them. Their influence becomes part of the music. You remember someone who hurt you, and even that pain is rendered in chords so gentle it surprises you. Nothing is erased, but everything is softened. You ask yourself quietly, am I being comforted or witnessed? And a part of you understands both. There is no applause when the song pauses. There is no need. This was not a concert. This was a remembering, a making real of everything that lived inside you. Even when you forgot, you turn, expecting the choir to vanish. But they do not. They continue, fainter now, as if accompanying your steps, as if this music will follow you wherever you go next. In this place where the soul waits, where fire does not burn and time does not pass, the greatest mercy may be this: that someone sings, just for you. Even if the someone is made of your own echoes, even if the voice is only memory, reassembled, even if no one else hears it, even if the song ends, you were heard. And now, you are ready to walk forward. You arrive at a corridor, dimly lit, its walls trembling as though breathing with memory. The air smells of wax and something older, not dust, but time itself, as if it's been sitting patiently on every surface, waiting for you. No doors here, only rows of floating candles that stretch into the unseen. And the moment you take a single step inside, a few flicker brighter, as if they recognize you. This place is not meant to accuse, but to remember. It is not judgment that fills this corridor, but illumination, not of deeds, but of thoughts. This is where the things you once felt but never spoke come to rest. Thoughts you buried too quickly, memories you softened too soon, kindnesses you never claimed, jealousies you dismissed with a smile. Each one here, a flame, each one trembling in its own rhythm. One candle burns a little blue, shy and flickering. You step closer. A memory returns the time you wanted to say sorry to someone, but instead smiled and moved on. You had your reasons. You always did. But that small apology still lingers in the air of this candle, glowing like something half-born. It does not blame you. It merely glows. Another candle dances in deep amber the moment you gave up a dream because someone else said it was foolish. That quiet surrender, that tiny funeral you held in your chest, with no one else attending. That, too, burns here. And then, oh, this one, the tall one in the corner that almost hums. It's not a regret. It's not even a sorrow. It is the moment you felt a strange joy just watching someone laugh. A person you no longer speak to, someone whose voice you still remember when it rains. That joy, unspoken, became a candle, and it still burns in gratitude that you once felt it. Not all candles here flicker in pain. Some are lit by silent acts of courage, the time you spoke when your voice trembled, the moment you forgave someone without telling them, the hour you cried behind a closed door and emerged softer, not harder. These are acts no one rewarded, but this place remembers. A few candles seem dimmer, barely glowing at all. These are the thoughts you buried so deep even you can't name them anymore. Yet still, they burn. Not to haunt, but to bear witness. One small flame sits low on the ground. You kneel beside it. This one is bitter, sharp. A thought you had once, in anger, wishing something cruel upon someone you loved. You didn't mean it. You never meant it. But the thought happened, and the candle holds it gently, reminding you that even darkness, when acknowledged, loses some of its sting. The more you walk, the more the corridor adjusts to you. New candles light as you recall more than you expected. Thoughts once hidden in the corners of your chest now take shape in flame, not as threats, but as memories that deserve to be seen. You realize this is not punishment. This is honesty, made soft. This place does not demand shame. It offers presence. You are allowed to feel the warmth of what you thought you'd forgotten. You are allowed to grieve the parts of yourself you edited for others. You are allowed to see your private kindnesses without needing applause. The candles do not compare themselves. The candle that marks a childhood jealousy burns no less brightly than the one that remembers a prayer you made for a stranger. All thoughts are given equal light here. Because in this realm, your inner world is treated as real, as sacred, as flame-worthy. Far ahead, you spot a large, still candle. This one doesn't flicker at all. It's steady, ancient. You don't need to ask what it is. You already know. It's the thought you've had your whole life, the one that hums underneath everything. Will I ever be truly seen? That thought has burned longer than the others. Not with urgency, but with endurance. It has never gone out. Not even once. And now, here it is seen, named, lit. You let it glow without shame. You walk slower now, more gently. The corridor begins to feel like something deeper than memory, more like a soul's inventory. A quiet museum curated not by morality, but by awareness. Every candle, an artifact of your inner weather. Every flame, a softness you once tried to harden. Eventually, you reach the end. Not a door, not an answer, just one final candle unlit. You look at it, curious, and then, without thinking, you remember something, a kindness you were too afraid to offer, a moment of tenderness you talked yourself out of, a version of yourself that was more gentle, but never got to speak. The wick glows to life, and for the first time, a candle is lit not by the past, but by the future. And still, the corridor welcomes you. Still, the air glows. Still, you are not judged. You are simply illuminated. You are sitting now beneath something that is not a sky. Not quite. Above you stretches a ceiling made of neither stone nor cloud, but something between a pale, translucent vastness that hums like sleep does just before it begins. It glows, barely, the way memory glows when you're almost ready to forget it, not with heat, but with the ache of knowing it was once real. And far beyond that dim horizon, there's something else. You've seen it, haven't you? That glimmer, that distant shimmer of soft gold and endless warmth. Heaven, they might have called it once, when you were still wrapped in skin. But from here, in this in-between, it is only a suggestion, a shimmer on water you can never reach. And you can't quite decide whether it's a destination or a memory. Here, heaven looks different. Not because it has changed, but because you have. In life, it was always described with certainty. Streets of gold, wings of angels, a throne of light. But in this liminal place, there are no such certainties, only impressions, only longing without direction. You no longer know whether heaven is behind you or ahead, whether it's where you are going, or where you came from and can never return. And so you sit. You've begun to notice that the souls here do not ask when. They only whisper if. If we get there. They murmur. If we are remembered long enough. If we are light enough to rise. The word if floats through this world like a lullaby without a melody, soft, aimless, and slow. There is no ladder here, no gate, no judgment passed in thunder, only a gradual softening of the self, a shedding, maybe. And with every old sorrow that melts from your spirit like wax from an overlit candle, you feel a little lighter, a little more translucent, as though the shimmer might one day let you in. But for now, it is distant, kind, but silent, present, but untouchable. You begin to understand something strange from within the purgatory of thought. The idea of heaven is no longer a reward. It is a mirror. It shows you not what is there, but what in you is not yet ready to go. It doesn't pull you in, it waits. Silently. Like a door that only opens when you've forgotten how to knock. And so, you wait. Not with impatience, but with a kind of reverence. Because here, every waiting soul is also a tuning fork vibrating quietly with echoes of their own longing. And you begin to recognize them. Not their faces, but their frequencies. There's the one who hums with forgiveness never asked for. Another who glows faintly with a grief too small to name but too large to bury. Another who mutters names like prayers, names of those still alive. Names of those they forgot to love properly. In this place, identity is a soft garment. It slips on and off. You're no longer sure whether the things you remember are yours or someone else's. A child laughing. A letter unread. A lie that helped. A truth that hurt. You hold them like feathers, weightless, until they drift away again. Still, above you, the shimmer stays. Sometimes it pulses, gently, as if breathing. You wonder if heaven dreams too. You wonder if it watches you as you watch it. If it feels the ache of your waiting, and waits in turn for your ache to stop. Because that's what this seems to be, not a test, but a healing. A long, slow unraveling of the need to be anything at all. You are untying yourself, thread by shimmering thread, from the person you once clung to. And with every strand released, the shimmer grows brighter. You remember, distantly, that some said heaven was where your loved ones waited, that it would feel like reunion. But here, you begin to sense a deeper truth. Heaven is not where others are. It's where your longing for them no longer hurts, where connection is no longer a need, but a knowing. And so you begin to understand why it stays at a distance, not to punish you, not to tease you, but to give you space to become the version of yourself who doesn't need to chase it. You look around. The souls beside you are not speaking. They are listening. Listening to the silence between their thoughts. Listening to the echoes of what they once called God, now stripped of name, stripped of dogma, stripped of expectation. Here, the divine is not a person or a place. It is a temperature, a shimmer, a softness at the edge of being, and slowly, softly, the space between you and it begins to thin. You notice it first, not in vision, but in weight. You feel lighter, not because you are going somewhere, but because you are releasing what was keeping you still. Regret loosens. Need fades. Identity unhooks from its anchors. You start to hear something, not sound, but vibration. A hum, as though the shimmer is now inside you. Two, as though the difference between where you are and where it is only illusion. And that is perhaps the final whisper of this in-between. Heaven does not arrive. It reveals. It is not entered. It is remembered. The shimmer has always been with you. Within you, only your sorrow made it look far away. You sit a while longer. You are not in a rush. Eventually, there will be a moment, gentle, small, where the shimmer no longer feels separate. You'll reach up, not with hands, but with becoming. And the shimmer will not open like a gate. It will dissolve like a question no longer needing to be asked. Until then, you stay. You watch it shimmer. And for the first time, you do not long for it. You thank it. Because from here, heaven looks different. And maybe, so do you. You return, in silence, to a space you've never left. The corners are round, the walls soft, no hard angles to bruise the memory. Everything here breathes with a hush. This is not a place of judgment. This is the place of quiet reconstruction. The soft machinery of redemption does not clang or grind. It hums. It begins with a sound like breath on glass. Not yours. Perhaps. Maybe a version of you long since dissolved. The air here is thick with invisible labor, not of punishment, but of rearrangement. You feel as though you've been taken apart gently, piece by invisible piece, and set upon a cloth woven from old prayers and accidental grace. Every thought you buried, every word you almost said, floats above you in translucent thread. There is no pain, but there is ache. The ache of being known so completely that even the parts you forgot you were hiding begin to glow with soft embarrassment. And still, no one looks away. No one judges. This place doesn't know cruelty, only clarity, and the long warmth of attention. Somewhere nearby, a mechanism turns. Not metal, not clockwork. It is made of memory and light. It flickers when you breathe. You do not control it, but you are inside it. And every time it turns, something lost is recovered. Something broken is laid to rest. A voice, not quite a voice, begins to murmur. It does not speak words. Instead, it tells you things by showing you small truths, a smile you forgot to give, a cruelty you repeated by accident, a moment you were brave without knowing it. Each one plays like a note in a long, slow music. This music is not linear. It curls back on itself, like fog winding through pine. You are not traveling forward. You are descending gently inward, past the layers of false certainty you wore in life, into a deeper, older center. This is not confession. It is reassembly. You once thought redemption would be fire or gold or gates, but it is this stillness so honest it begins to undo the damage gently. You do not scream. You do not even speak. You rest, in slow surrender. As the machinery continues, you begin to feel the outlines of who you were, who you pretended to be, and who you truly are, sliding into slow alignment. They don't snap together. They fold, like petals in sleep, toward one another. Sometimes, it is cold here. Not the chill of punishment, but the kind that comes when you are finally emptying out. You shiver not because it hurts, but because something in you is loosening, disassembling old armor. The parts of you that clung to shame, they fall away like hushed snow. You do not know how long this process takes. There is no time here, only turns of the quiet wheel, only the unfolding. You could remain here for centuries, or it could end in the next moment. It does not matter. What matters is that the machinery never rushes you. It waits until you are ready to be made whole again. There is a basin not of water, but of memory. You do not bathe in it. You sit beside it, and images rise your first lie, your mother's sigh, a kindness so small no one noticed, not even you, and then another, and another. These are not judgments. They are reintroductions. You are meeting yourself again. There is a warmth that grows, not heat, but presence, like someone you once loved sitting near, not speaking, the warmth of being witnessed, the comfort of not hiding. You are seen, fully, and it does not break you. It quiets you. Somewhere in this chamber, there are feathers. You don't see them, but you sense them the way the air moves as if brushed by wings. You wonder if those who were said to guard and guide have left them behind as markers. Like breadcrumbs in a silent forest, you remember a dream you had as a child, a staircase spiraling into clouds, each step a soft bell. You climb it now, not in motion, but in memory. The bells don't ring. They hum. Every step is an answer to a question you forgot to ask. Here, redemption is not earned. It is remembered. It is not granted. It is uncovered, like a buried shell in warm sand. You were always redeemable. You were always allowed to begin again. But you had to be still enough to hear the click of the soft machinery turning back toward grace. And now you realize you are not alone. There are others here. Not bodies, not voices, but pulses. Frequencies of once lost souls, each going through their own quiet reassembly. Their presence does not intrude. It holds you, like wind holds the wing. They are not watching. They are becoming, you see, now that this machinery is vast. It stretches beyond your perception. You are one of countless threads being rewoven into the larger cloth. No one is ahead, no one behind. Only layers folding gently into one another, every cruelty melted into context, every regret returned as softened fabric. You weep, not from sorrow, but from release. The kind of tears that only come when something ancient inside you finally lets go. The machinery pauses for a moment, not to catch up, but to honor your weeping. It does not fear emotion. It listens. And when you are ready, it continues. You are reshaped, not into something new, but into the original shape of your soul, before fear hardened it. You remember your first laughter. You remember the sound of forgiveness. You remember the way light fell across your face the day you realized love could survive. It was never about punishment. It was always about remembering how to begin again. Now, your soul is reassembled. It does not shine. It does not radiate. It simply rests intact, softened, shaped by stillness. You are whole in the quietest way. And when the final click comes, the last soft turn of the wheel, you don't ascend. You stay still, not because you must, but because you are at peace. And peace does not rush. You sit with your knees pulled close, your breath shallow, surrounded by the hum of a silence too full to be empty. And then, footsteps, not urgent, not loud, but certain, deliberate. They do not approach in haste. nor do they emerge from above or below. These footsteps come from beside you, from a path you didn't know was there. You look, but there is no one. Yet the feeling intensifies, a quiet arrival, not of light, but of presence. Not a rescue, not a judgment, just company. A soul, perhaps older than yours, whose fire no longer burns but smolders gently. Someone who has already crossed, already risen, already known the end of waiting. But instead of remaining beyond, they've come back, not forward back, into the fog, into the ache, into the stillness you thought was yours alone. This is the strange kindness of purgatory, that some who are free choose to stay. Not because they must, but because they remember how long it took for them to breathe again. How heavy the silence was when no one sang. How thick the smoke was before clarity arrived like a whisper, not a trumpet. And so they walk backward into the fire. They do not bring escape, for this is not a place one is rescued from. But they bring recognition. They sit next to you and simply say, I remember this. Sometimes they offer no words, just a warmth where cold had settled. A slight glow that is not light, but attention, the sacred kind, the kind that makes you feel less lost. Even if nothing has changed, you ask not with your mouth, but with your presence why they would return. The answer is soft, because they remembered the moment no one else was there, because they remembered the weight of unfinished prayers, because once someone waited with them too. There are stories whispered here, not aloud, but folded into the silence between souls. Stories of saints who chose to turn around at the gates of heaven, not in defiance, not in guilt, but in love. Not romantic love, not familial love. Something older. Love that recognizes pain as a language. Love that does not run from fire, but remembers it. You do not know their names. You will not find them in books or icons. They are not canonized. They do not shine in stained glass. They are not sung of in choirs. Their miracles are not thunder or spectacle. They are the miracle of not leaving, of choosing the smoke over the sky, just for a little longer, of sitting beside a stranger and refusing to call them a stranger. One woman holds a bowl of water that never empties. She places it near the lips of those too weary to speak. One man carries a satchel full of forgotten names. He whispers each one into the stillness until it feels like someone is listening again. One returns simply to hold the weight of silence with you. They do not fix what is broken. They do not explain the machinery of this place. They do not declare when you will leave. But they offer presence, the most invisible form of love. You are still you, still waiting, still hovering in the in-between. But now, you are seen. It is a strange thing, this backward sainthood. In a world that rushes toward ascension, glory, enlightenment, here are those who descend not to conquer darkness, but to dwell gently in it, to accompany, not to teach, but to remember. You realize, slowly, that they are not perfect, not above, not glowing. Their robes are singed at the hem. Their voices falter sometimes. They flinch at certain memories, just as you do. That's why you trust them, because they are not made of light. They carry it quietly. You watch as one of them kneels beside a soul too broken to speak and simply waits, not pushing, not urging, just offering a place to lean. You remember now, in the far recesses of your pre-life, how you once promised to do the same. A vow made not in words, but in ache, that if you ever made it through your own sorrow, you would not turn your back on those still lost in it. Perhaps that's what being a saint here truly means, not performing miracles, but honoring promises you once made in silence. You wonder if you might stay a little longer when your time comes. You wonder if, when your smoke finally lifts, you'll turn around, walk backward, and find someone waiting in the same spot you once occupied. A boy who never forgave himself. A girl who believed no one saw her tears. An old man clutching a memory like a shard of broken glass. Would you stay? Would you remember? Would you sit beside them and say nothing? Simply to let them feel not alone. That is the choice these saints make again and again. Not as duty, not as debt, as devotion, and in their quiet return, they offer a new kind of redemption, not earned, not exchanged, not deserved, just mirrored. One day, someone may call your name and ask where you went after the light came, and maybe the answer will be, I went back. Not because I had to, but because someone once stayed with me. That too is salvation. Not the freedom from sorrow, but the freedom to return through it. Not as a prisoner, but as a companion. No door swings open. No voice announces progress. But in the presence of backward saints, you feel something shift. The fire doesn't burn less, but it doesn't burn alone, and that is enough. You open your eyes, or you think you do, but there is no change in the light. It is that dream light again, the kind that makes shadows drift in slow motion and memories hum softly in the corners of your vision. A fog presses around the space, but not with weight. It floats like breath on glass, inviting you to forget the shape of things. And yet, something pulls you to stay. You begin to wonder if this is a dream. Then why does it echo in you like something you never lived, but always carried? A figure walks beside you, though you're not sure when they arrived. They do not speak, but their presence is familiar. Perhaps they are a memory, or perhaps they are the part of you that still wonders, quietly, if this has all happened before. The place itself is dreamlike, but not chaotic. In fact, it is gentle in its logic. Doors appear where you long for escape, and vanish when you try to force them open. Time thickens when you remember something too vividly, and thins when you surrender to the moment. Nothing shouts here. There is only the hum, a kind of sacred hush. Like the world has taken a breath and forgotten to exhale. A wall ahead is made of mirrors, but none of them reflect your current face. One shows you as a child staring into starlight. Another shows you aged, holding a hand you can't identify but deeply miss. A third shows you asleep in your old room, the blanket crooked, your brow furrowed in a dream. Perhaps even this one. You're not sure which version of you is real anymore, but none of them look afraid. A whisper floats across the fog. What you remember most is not always what was true, but what was unresolved. You pause. It's a thought that lands softly in your chest. You've always known that some dreams feel more real than days. Some memories ache like bruises from a life that might not have been yours. And yet, you hold them as your own. Here, in this soft corridor of the in-between, that paradox becomes sacred. The realm you wander now, it isn't Earth, but it's not quite heaven either. It's something liminal, stitched together by memory and longing, threaded with echoes of unfinished thoughts. A small table sits to the side, with a teacup that steams despite no one having touched it. You pick it up. The warmth is not physical, it is emotional. It feels like a forgiveness you didn't ask for but needed. You take a sip. It tastes like the scent of your grandmother's kitchen, like the silence between two friends who've just made peace, like lavender after a long cry. You don't ask questions anymore. A scroll lies beside the cup, bound in white ribbon. When you open it, you don't see words, you see scenes. Fleeting flashes of things you nearly did, a kindness you almost offered, a letter you almost wrote, a goodbye you swallowed in silence. They play before you like silent theater, shimmering softly. You want to reach in and fix them, But the scroll rolls shut on its own. Not with cruelty, but with care. As if to say, the dream remembers. And that is enough. You wander farther into the corridor. There is a place where the fog parts, and above you stretches not sky, but memory itself woven in light. Faces you've forgotten appear and disappear. Some laughing, some just watching. Some you never met in this life but feel you've always known. Here, time moves sideways. A tree grows from the center of the room, but its leaves are made of paper, each etched with something someone almost said. The wind never scatters them. Instead, it hums through the leaves, creating a symphony of unfinished songs. You stand still, letting the sound sink into your breath, and then a realization dawns. Maybe this isn't purgatory. Maybe it's not a dream. Maybe this is what memory becomes when the soul no longer wears skin. A soft voice, perhaps your own, says from nowhere, you remember because you were meant to finish something, even if it's only in sleep. It's strange, but comforting. You begin to understand that this place, this gentle dream space, is not asking for action. It's asking for presence, for quiet, for witnessing. The deeper truth here isn't whether this realm is real. It's that your experience of it is real. Emotion is its currency. Longing is its language. Regret, its architecture. Forgiveness, its only law. A door appears now, not in front of you, but inside you. You feel it, a gentle opening in your chest. Not dramatic, not painful, just soft. Like the heart finally allowing light to come through an old wound. You walk through, and nothing changes, yet everything feels lighter. Somewhere in the distance, a bell chimes once, not to signal ending, but attention. If this was a dream, why do you remember it? The question echoes again. And this time, it doesn't need an answer. Because in this realm, questions don't demand resolution. They become companions. You lie down now, not on a bed, but on memory itself. It supports you gently, like water with form. The fog curls around you once more, but this time, it feels like a blanket. One stitched not from thread, but from every soft thought you never said aloud. And as you close your eyes again, or maybe for the first time, you hear the whisper once more. Just at the edge of sleep, perhaps this is the dream your soul returns to. Each time the world grows too loud, and so you rest, quietly, as if you never left. You are drifting again, not falling, not floating, but suspended like a feather that never lands, caught in a hush that does not end. The stillness here is not silence, but a quiet woven of forgotten lullabies and thoughts never spoken aloud. And then, you smell it. Lavender, not the sharp, fresh kind that grows in sun-warmed fields, nor the bottled version folded into linens by gentle hands. This lavender does not belong to earth. It comes from a memory that doesn't feel like yours. Or perhaps it's the memory of your soul, stored beneath your name and bones. There are no flowers here, no stems, no soil. And yet, the scent arrives like a visitor who knows the way. A whisper of calm, a ribbon of light. It winds through the corridors of your unspoken longings. It circles your ankles, your wrists, the places where grief once tied itself in knots. You hadn't realized how tightly your spirit was clenched until now. When something invisible, something impossibly kind, begins to untie you. This is not the scent of beauty. It is the scent of mercy. You look around, but there are no candles, no incense sticks, no fragrant oils burning quietly in sacred corners. Only the air itself seems to remember. The air itself seems to feel, and you wonder who lit this moment, who wrapped this realm in tenderness. There are no hands here, not in the usual sense, but there are intentions, and they are more powerful than touch. Perhaps you are not the only one remembering. Perhaps the lavender was left by someone long ago, a soul like yours, who waited too long for forgiveness and decided, in the in-between, to leave behind small comforts for the next traveler. A scent, a pause, a kindness that does not require thanks. Lavender for the ache, lavender for the guilt you didn't know you still carried, lavender for the version of you that curled up in silence and hoped someone would understand without asking you to explain. You breathe it in. It does not pull you back to life. It does not push you forward toward heaven. It just keeps you company. That's what makes it holy. And as the scent weaves through the stillness, you remember other comforts that were never supposed to survive death. The way your mother ran her fingers through your hair when you were too sad to speak. The way your dog rested her head on your knee the night you were going to give up. The way the wind felt when you walked alone, but didn't feel lonely. You didn't bring these things with you. They followed you. You were not supposed to remember sensations. You were not supposed to feel the temperature of love once it had passed. But it seems some truths are too tender to obey the rules of physics, or even theology. And in that moment, you begin to suspect something profound. That comfort is older than pain. That softness is not weakness, but memory made sacred. That maybe, just maybe, the architecture of this place, this strange, forgotten hallway between light and light, was built not of judgment, but of mercy preserved in scent. You move slowly now, not out of fear, but reverence. Every step leaves no mark. But something shifts. The lavender is behind you, and ahead of you, and nowhere at all. You realize it isn't being released, it's being remembered. You're not inhaling, you're recognizing. Somewhere inside your soul, this scent was always waiting. You wonder what other echoes lie within you. Sandalwood for peace. Rain on warm pavement for surrender. Freshly baked bread for the love you gave without asking it to last. Ashes for the endings that never hurt as much as the waiting. You think about the others who will come here, who are already here, who might never realize they're here. And you whisper, without needing to speak, may they find their lavender too. Because in this place, where clocks do not move and time does not end, the soul needs something gentle to hold. Not as proof of anything, just as a lullaby made of air. And so you keep walking. Not because the path is clear, but because the scent does not fade. You are not being guided. You are being remembered. And that is more than enough. You are still here. There is no ticking, no schedule, no voice announcing the next phase. Just the hush between thoughts, the low light of unknowing. And so, you wait. But tonight, you are learning a new kind of waiting, one that is not hunger in disguise, because wanting is heavy. And here, you are meant to float. You were taught that to wait is to yearn, to stand in line with your palms open, to grip the seconds tightly until they soften into reward. But now, in this suspended place beyond before and after, you are asked to do something stranger, to wait without the ache, no countdown, no craving, no goal gleaming on the other side of patience. Just presence. There is a bench, perhaps, or not even that, simply a stillness that makes room for you. It does not comfort. It does not advise. It does not even call itself stillness. It just is. And it allows you to be too. This is not boredom. It is not discipline. It is not the virtue your childhood priest spoke of, tight-lipped and stern. This is different. This is not waiting as a virtue. This is waiting as a verbless state of being. You sit not because you must. but because there is no wind to push you forward. And slowly, your need to be next begins to loosen. The narrative dissolves. You are no longer the soul awaiting judgment, the ghost awaiting redemption, the child awaiting permission. You are simply here, and being here is no longer a sentence. It is a place, a presence, a pause that does not end and does not need to. There are no hourglasses in this realm, no calendars scratched into stone. Even the stars seem content to flicker without urgency. You begin to understand that the cosmos itself is in no rush. Even God, if he is watching, seems to be doing so with the patience of a tree. So you breathe, not to fill time, not to calm yourself, but because breath is still yours. You inhale something that has no name, and it rests in your chest like the hum of a question that never needed answering. You begin to notice the texture of waiting. It is softer than you imagined. Not velvet, not cloud, but more like the cool underside of a pillow that has not yet learned your shape. There is no urgency in it. Only the sense that being here is not a step toward anything, it is the thing itself. And that's when it begins to shift. Waiting, you realize, is not the space between things. It is a thing, a truth, a kind of prayer without words. The soul's posture when it no longer needs to perform. You begin to wonder, what if all the moments you once called waiting in hospitals, in hallways, in heartache were actually invitations to this exact place? What if you were never being delayed, only gently unhooked from desire? There are others here. You sense, but no one moves. Not out of fear, but because movement would imply destination. And for the first time in your existence, both as body and as breath, you don't need a next. You don't need a then. You don't even need a reason. You are learning the discipline of unlearning. You are practicing the presence of not practicing. You are waiting not as an act, but as a state of grace. Somewhere in your old life, a younger you was told that if you stopped wanting, you'd become empty. But here in the room without walls, the moment without clock hands, you are discovering something more miraculous. That surrender is not emptiness. It is a fullness that no longer needs naming. So you sit, and you don't hope, and you don't despair. You just wait, not as a soul trying to get somewhere, but as something vaster. The witness, the pause, the in-between that is also the whole. And the longer you wait without wanting, the more whole you become. You don't know when the door appeared. There was no announcement, no crescendo, no glowing outline against the dark. Just a shift in the air, subtle and scentless, like the difference between being alone and being quietly accompanied. At first, you mistake it for imagination. After all, you've been waiting without asking, breathing without reaching, letting the walls blur into meaninglessness. And yet something changes, not in sight, but in sensation. It's like the stillness has a seam now, and that seam is loosening. You turn toward it, not out of need, but out of instinct. The same instinct that makes a flower lean toward light it cannot see. You do not stand. You do not rise. You simply shift inward, slightly, as if part of you already knew. And there it is, the door. It isn't grand. It doesn't shimmer or echo. It does not call itself a threshold. It doesn't claim to be the end of a trial or the beginning of a new chapter. It simply exists, quietly, like something that has always been there, only now noticed. And it's open, just enough to know it could be entered. Just enough to feel the breath of something softer on the other side. No key, no guard, no voice asking what you've learned. Just a door, opened not with ceremony, but with a kind of quiet that makes your heartbeat feel like thunder. You do not rush toward it. There is no urge, no command. only an unfolding within you like a petal warmed by invisible sun. You begin to rise, not with drama, but with gravity, as if your body was never heavy to begin with. You were always this light. You just forgot. Each step is a surrender, a letting go of the questions you once swore you'd carry forever. Each step is a kindness, not from the world, but from yourself to yourself. There is no fear, not because you are brave, but because there is nothing left to protect. No costume of suffering, no badge of penance. You are walking barefoot now, not across fire, but across silence. And then you are at the door. There is no knob, no resistance, no decision to make. The door does not need you to knock. It has already opened for you. You simply breathe and enter, and everything changes. But not loudly, not in color or explosion, not with choirs or celestial symbols. No pillars of light, no rolling voice naming you redeemed, no story arc with resolution. Nothing that could be captured in words or carved into stone. Just stillness, but somehow different. It is stillness with a scent like lavender and fog. Stillness with a temperature like skin warmed by presence alone. Stillness with a presence not another being, but something like being itself. You are not welcomed because you were never exiled. You are not congratulated because there was no contest. You are not transformed because the change was never about becoming. It was about remembering. There is a quiet here that feels older than sound. A hush that knows your name in every version. A breath that brushes your cheek like a goodbye that never needed to be said. And you finally understand. Redemption does not shout. It does not arrive like thunder cracking across a darkened sky. It does not march in with flags and finality. It arrives like a sigh, like the weight you didn't know you were carrying, leaving gently, with no receipt. It arrives in silence, because silence is the only thing loud enough to hold what you've become. You do not ask where you are. You do not ask what's next. You do not ask anything at all. Because in this place, the absence of question is not ignorance. It is peace. You rest your hand against something, perhaps the frame of the doorway, perhaps your own heart, and for a moment, you feel everything you ever were. Every version of you. Every fear and grace and error and beauty. Not as judgment, not as shame, but as softness, as completion. It does not speak to you, because it does not need to. The silence here says what no language could, and still, it feels like love. Not the kind sung in hymns or carved into cathedral ceilings, not the romantic or the divine, but the kind that simply holds like a lap, like the sea. Like the place before birth and after dying, you breathe again. And this time, the breath feels like it isn't yours alone, like you are part of a greater inhale, an exhale so wide it curves the fabric of time. You are home, but not in the place you left. Home as in the moment you stopped needing to arrive. You sit down, not because you are tired, but because sitting feels sacred now. The floor is not made of wood or stone or cloud. It is made of presence. It holds you like memory. You close your eyes, not to shut out the world, but because what you see inside now is softer. Inside, there is no judgment, no test, no tally of your deeds. Just echoes not of mistakes or miracles, but of moments. Moments you forgot were beautiful. Moments you forgot were enough, and they shimmer. Now, behind your eyelids, like fireflies caught in amber, like lullabies hummed in a language you used to speak before you learned to speak. And somewhere, far off or maybe within you hear it, a bell, so faint, it might not be sound at all. A bell that marks not an ending, but a beginning of stillness. You smile, not because something funny has happened, but because the absence of pain can feel like joy when you've known pain too long. You let go, not dramatically, not like dropping a stone off a cliff, more like opening your hand and realizing the stone was never there. You lie back, and the silence cradles you. No more doors, no more waiting, only this, A quiet that redeems without asking for wounds. A space that does not need to be filled. A breath that carries you not forward, not backward, but inward. And the door behind you, it never closed. Because there was never a door. Only the illusion of separation. Only the belief that redemption must be earned. But now you know, it arrives without a sound. And you were never outside it. Not really, not ever. And now, beloved wanderer, the journey softens. You've walked through the still corridors of a place without time, touched by echoes, observed by angels, lit only by the flicker of buried thoughts and prayers that never finished speaking. Purgatory, not as punishment, but as poetry. A place of waiting, yes, but also of witnessing. Not a dungeon of suffering, but a quiet chamber of reflection where even silence is a kind of music. Perhaps you saw yourself in the room of keys, in the garden with no season, in the smell of lavender rising from nowhere. Perhaps you recognized a thought you once tried to forget, now glowing softly like a candle held by no hand. Perhaps, just perhaps, a name you hadn't remembered in years whispered itself back to you backward. In light, this isn't the end, nor the beginning. It's the hush between the two. And you've been so brave to rest here with me. There's no need to understand everything right now. You don't have to name the mysteries. You don't need answers. Only presence. Only the breath. So breathe once more gently, deeply, without reaching. Feel the bed hold you. Let the weight of the world loosen from your chest. The questions can wait. The door, when it opens, will not disturb you. It doesn't need to. You'll know it by the silence. You'll feel it in your breath. And for now, you are here. You are safe. The fires behind you do not burn. The ones ahead do not hurt. Only warmth. Only hush. Only the soft machinery of becoming. Now you're safe. The world can wait. Sweet dreams.